The door to the Whitmore estate weighed more than Marcus's monthly rent. He shifted the package under his arm and pressed the doorbell. Somewhere inside, chimes echoed through what sounded like a cathedral. His quick-drop uniform was still damp from the rain, and he caught his reflection in the polished brass knocker. He looked like he didn't belong here, because he didn't. The door swung open. A man in a grey suit, not a butler's uniform, just expensive clothes, studied him with eyes that seemed to catalogue everything in a single glance. "Delivery for James Whitmore," Marcus said. "Signature required." The man didn't move. "You can leave it with me." "Signature required," Marcus repeated. "From Mr. Whitmore directly, that's what the system says." Something flickered across the man's face. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition. "Wait here." The door closed. Marcus exhaled. "Drop a comment. Where are you watching from?" 2 minutes later, the door opened again, this time wider. "Mr. Whitmore will sign for it personally," the man said. "Follow me." Marcus stepped inside and forgot how to breathe. The foyer alone was larger than his entire apartment building. Marble floors, a staircase that curved upward like something from a movie, and the walls were covered in photographs. Not art, not paintings, photographs, dozens of them, black and white, color. Different sizes, different frames, but all featuring people, candid moments, laughter, life. Marcus followed the man in the grey suit, but his eyes kept drifting to the walls. A photograph of a sunrise over mountains, a child playing in autumn leaves, an elderly couple holding hands. Then he stopped. His heart stopped with him. Because there, on the wall of a billionaire's mansion in Connecticut, was a photograph of his mother. Not his mother now, grey in her hair, tired lines around her eyes, calluses on her hands from years of work. His mother young, maybe 25, wearing a white dress he'd never seen, standing in a garden he didn't recognize, smiling in a way he'd never witnessed. She looked happy. She looked like someone else entirely. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Marcus spun. A man stood at the end of the hallway, tall, silver hair, the kind of face that appeared on magazine covers and cable news interviews. "James Whitmore, that photograph," Marcus managed. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "The woman in that photograph, I know who she is." James Whitmore's voice was calm, almost gentle. "The question is, do you?" Marcus's hands were shaking. He didn't know when they'd started. "Why is my mom's photo in your mansion?" The words came out harder than he intended. Angrier, but he didn't care, because nothing about this made sense. James Whitmore studied him for a long moment. That same cataloging look his assistant had given him at the door. But deeper, sadder. "I wondered when someone would finally ask me that," James said. "I've been waiting 24 years. 24 years, Marcus repeated. "That's your entire life." "Yes." James gestured toward a doorway. "Sit down, Marcus. This is going to take a while." "How do you know my name?" James paused. Something crossed his face, pain, maybe, or memory. "Because I've known about you since you were 6 years old. And I've watched you grow up from a distance, unable to say a word." Marcus didn't move. "That doesn't answer my question. Why is my mother's photo on your wall?" James Whitmore exhaled slowly. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of decades. "Her name wasn't always Elena Reyes. 24 years ago, she was Elena Hartwell. She came from one of the wealthiest families on the East Coast." He paused. "And she was supposed to become my wife." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His mother, the woman who'd worked double shifts at a laundromat, who'd raised him in a one-bedroom apartment with second-hand furniture and carefully stretched grocery budgets. A billionaire's fiancé. "You're lying," Marcus said. "I'm not." James's eyes held his. "But the engagement isn't why I have her photo, Marcus. It's not why I've watched over you both for 18 years. Marcus's throat tightened. "Then why?" James Whitmore looked at the photograph on the wall, at the woman who had been young and happy and his. "It's what happened the night she disappeared, and what she gave up to keep you alive." Marcus couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "Keep me alive." His voice cracked on the last word. "What does that mean?" James walked to the window. Afternoon light caught the silver in his hair, made him look older than 52, tired in a way money couldn't fix. "What do you know about corruption, Marcus?" "What does that have to do with?" "Everything." James turned. "It has everything to do with why your mother vanished, why she changed her name, Why she raised you in a one-bedroom apartment instead of the life she was born into. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then tell me, your mother was a researcher, brilliant. She worked for a non-profit investigating financial crimes. James paused. She found something she wasn't supposed to find. A network, senators, judges, billionaires, some of them my colleagues. Moving money, buying elections, destroying anyone who asked questions. And they threatened her. They did more than threaten. James's voice dropped. 3 witnesses who'd agreed to testify disappeared the year before Elena found the files. 2 were ruled accidents, 1 was never found. Marcus felt his stomach turn. They sent her photographs, James continued. Me walking into my office, me at our engagement party. Every photo had crosshairs drawn over my heart. We're going to kill you. That was the message, but it wasn't just me, Marcus. James met his eyes. There was a note left on her pillow the night before she disappeared. What did it say? James's voice was barely audible. We know about the baby. Leave or bury them both. The room tilted. Marcus grabbed the edge of a chair. His knuckles went white. The baby, he repeated. She was pregnant when she left. 1 month along, I didn't know, she never told me. The question was there. Burning in Marcus's chest, he couldn't not ask it. Am I? His throat closed. He forced the words out. Are you my father? James went still. The silence stretched between them like a wire about to snap. I've asked myself that question every single day for 18 years. James's voice was rough. Since the moment I found out you existed. That's not an answer. Because I don't have one. She never told me she was pregnant, Marcus. I didn't know you were alive until you were 6 years old. Marcus shook his head. How is that possible if you're this billionaire with unlimited resources? She was good at hiding, better than anyone I've ever known. James exhaled. When she ran completely new name, new city every few years, paid cash for everything, no digital footprint. It took my investigators almost 6 years to find her. And when you did, I watched. The word hung in the air. What do you mean you watched? James's expression shifted. Something like shame crossed his features. I hired people to keep tabs, to make sure you were both safe, to make sure the people who threatened her hadn't found her first. Marcus's pulse hammered in his ears. You spied on us. I protected you from a distance. For 18 years. For 18 years. Marcus thought about his life. The small apartment. The double shifts his mother worked. The way they'd never had much, but somehow always had enough. Then he thought about his scholarship. The full ride to State University that had appeared out of nowhere. The letter that said his test scores had qualified him for a private foundation grant he'd never applied for. The scholarship, Marcus said slowly. That was you. James didn't deny it. My mom's surgery 3 years ago. The insurance that suddenly covered everything. Yes. Our landlord. The one who never raised rent in 15 years. I own the building. Would you be grateful or angry if someone helped you like this? Comment below. Marcus's hands were shaking again, but not from shock this time, from rage. So nothing in my life was actually mine. His voice rose. Every break I thought I earned, every bit of luck. It was all you pulling strings, managing me like some project. Marcus, she let me think I wasn't good enough. The words exploded out of him. She let me believe we were barely surviving because that's just how life was for people like us. And the whole time, there was a billionaire playing puppet master with our lives. Everything in your life was your mother's sacrifice. James's voice was firm now, not apologetic. She walked away from $50 million and a future with me to work double shifts at a laundromat for 24 years. I just tried to make it hurt less. You had no right. A sound, soft, almost nothing. From the hallway behind them, both men turned. A woman stood in the doorway, grey streaked through dark hair that had once been black, thinner than the photograph on the wall, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there in the white dress. But the same eyes, the same jaw, the same way of standing, like she was ready to run at any moment. Marcus couldn't speak. James made a sound like he'd been punched. Elena Hartwell stood frozen, looking at the son she'd raised in secrets and the man she'd left behind to save. Mom, Marcus's voice broke. What are you? How long have you? Long enough. Her voice was steadier than her hands. I heard everything. James took a step toward her. Elena, after all this time, she held up a hand, stopped him. Her eyes found Marcus, red-rimmed, wet. I think it's time I told him myself. She stepped into the room. James whispered her name like a prayer, and 24 years of silence was about to end. Elena crossed the room slowly, like every step cost her something. I found files, she said. Senator Holt, 12 others, money flowing to judges, to prosecutors, to anyone who could make problems disappear. She stopped in front of Marcus. 3 people who found what I found were dead within a year. Mom, they sent me photographs. James walking to his car, James at our engagement party. Every single one had a target drawn over his heart. Her voice cracked. And then the note, on my pillow, the night before I disappeared. Marcus remembered what James had told him. They knew you were pregnant. Leave or bury them both. Elena's hands were shaking now. I couldn't let them kill him, Marcus. I couldn't let them kill you, so I ran. Why didn't you tell him? He could have helped. If James knew, he would have fought, and they would have murdered him. She touched her son's face. I chose 24 years of loneliness over a single day of watching him die. The way this wasn't about blood, but about choice. The room was silent. Marcus turned to James. And you just watched us for 18 years. It wasn't my truth to tell. James's voice was rough. She sacrificed everything to keep us safe. I wasn't going to take that choice away from her. But you're not. Marcus stopped. The question he'd been afraid to finish. Elena answered it. James isn't your biological father, Marcus. She said it gently. Your father was a man I met in Nevada 3 months after I ran. He wanted nothing to do with us. A pause. He's not important. Marcus felt something collapse in his chest, and something else take its place. But James, Elena continued, James has loved you since the moment he found out you existed. He's given you more than biology ever could. Marcus looked at the man who'd funded his education, paid for his mother's surgery, kept them safe from the shadows for 18 years, not his father by blood, but maybe something more. Why now? Marcus asked his mother. Why come back now? Elena's face changed. Something flickered across it, fear, resignation, peace. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She said it like she'd practiced. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe less. Marcus couldn't breathe. I couldn't die with you not knowing, Elena whispered. I couldn't let the last thing you believed about me be a lie. James reached for her hand. She let him take it. There's a federal prosecutor, James said quietly. She's been building a case against Holt's network for years. If we testify, they'll finally pay. Elena squeezed his hand. No more running. Marcus took his mother's other hand. No more hiding. 3 people, 24 years of secrets. And finally, the truth. The arrests came on a Tuesday. Senator Holt in handcuffs, his face on every screen in America. 15 indictments, 12 convictions. A corruption network that had operated for 30 years, finally exposed by the woman who'd sacrificed everything to survive it. Elena watched from her hospital bed, James on one side, Marcus on the other. The doctors called what happened next a miracle. Elena called it unfinished business. 6 months later, she walked down an aisle covered in white flowers. The dress was the same one from the photograph, altered now, taken in, adjusted for a woman who'd lived an entirely different life than the one she'd planned. But still white, still beautiful. James waited at the end. Marcus offered his arm. You ready? He asked. Elena looked at the man she'd loved for 24 years, the man she'd left to save, the man who'd never stopped waiting. 24 years late, she said, tears streaming down her face. James took her hands. His voice broke on the words. But finally home. Like and subscribe if you want more stories like this.